And we continue relentlessly with our focus on India's vaccination drive, the mess that it's become, and our policy decisions. So one more time tonight, we pick up this conversation, and here is why we are doing this. As you know now, viewers, it's been about a month since the centre decided to overhaul and change the entire policy and decided to put the entire onus on the states. For 50% of the vaccination, the onus is put on the states and the private hospitals. Just when our vaccination pace was picking up, this change was made. It took a while for the states to really get their bearings, because obviously they had not really been a part of this planning and procurement so far. They hadn't looked at it for a year. It took them some time to get their bearings, figure out what their options are. The two vaccine makers in India said, we have very limited manufacturing capacity right now, so you got to wait your turn. We'll probably give you some now just as a token, and maybe give you another better, bigger lot by June, July, we'll see. The centre said then that we are also tweaking our vaccine policy to make it easier to give emergency use, not for foreign vaccines. So now we are open to the foreign vaccines. If the states want, any of the states can go to these foreign vaccine makers, whether it's Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Sputnik, wherever. And if they strike a deal, we'll give them the speedy approval to bring in these vaccines and distribute it here. And so the states began to work on it. Left with no other option, they began to issue these global tenders calling for vaccine makers to come and bid and pick up an order for individual states. But then came this response from two of the biggest vaccine makers right now, Pfizer and Moderna, who turned around and told the states individually, to Punjab and to the national capital, to Delhi, that we don't deal with state governments, that we are only going to be talking to the country's government or somebody of that authority. And so we are back to square one. Now the centre today, when it was asked in its daily health briefing on this entire disaster, has turned around and said that we are going to provide them speedy approvals. We are also in conversation with these vaccine makers, and we will facilitate procurement of these vaccines. I frankly don't even know what that means and how it functions. But I can say this, that it looks like a complete disaster. And I will ask this question. Has the entire policy change that took place in April not backfired? I'll tell you why I believe it has. Because vaccination has slowed down, not only because we don't have enough doses, but because we are also looking at change of authority, change of hands. Newer institutions, private players, states have come into place. There are supply chain hurdles. There is all of this confusion. They took time to issue global tenders that got no response. Vaccine makers are now saying no. Centre is saying, okay, we will help, but we don't know. In some cases, even the Indian vaccine makers are telling the states that we don't have anything to give you right now, or the centre is asking us to not give you more than this much amount. And so really, I don't know what's going to happen for the next couple of months. But let's talk about it. I say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. Adil Singh Boparai, National Spokesperson for the Congress Party, Shivam Chhabra of the BJP, Clyde Castro, Spokesperson for the NCP, and Abantika Ghosh, Senior Associate Editor with The Print, joining us this evening. Clyde, I want to start off with you, because not only was Maharashtra looking at a larger global tender, even within the city of Mumbai, the civic body, which does have, a significant population to cater to, does have quite a bit of money in its hands, was looking at issuing this global tender and getting in vaccines. Now what are we going to do?
Well, thank you, Tanvi. You just probably read my mind. I was going to put my hand up and said I'm going to speak first today. There are two words that you used, disaster and backfire. I think you couldn't have chosen better words than that. And let me add a term to this. The term to this would be vaccine diplomacy. I'm telling you from day one, and we've done a lot of debates on this, and you all have been on the forefront to talk about this whole vaccine issue that has been going on. The whole thing is flawed. The whole planning has been flawed. I mean, In April, suddenly the government comes out and says, the states, you are on your own. You have to buy your own vaccines. You have to start inoculating people on your own. And one fine morning, every state was like wondering, what do we do now? Because they were not prepared with this. They were obtaining all the vaccines from the center, and then they were inoculating all the people in the state. Now, one fine morning this comes up. Then, when they approached the producers, the suppliers of the vaccines, they said, okay, we will take your orders, but as of now, we cannot give you anything because all the vaccines have been booked by the center. So if the vaccines have been booked by the center and the center tells you that you go and buy your vaccines and give it to the people, how does that work? I mean, what is the center trying to do? He's trying to tell you that, you go and do your own work, but, you won't have anything to do with it. Now, also, let me tell you, when I spoke about vaccine diplomacy, this whole thing about, all BJP spokesperson, BJP, the government people are saying that, we had this, kind of diplomacy we had to do. We were bound to supply vaccine to these countries. Why? How? We were not bound. There's no binding to it. You sent out vaccines, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why that what they say has been caught is because our representative to the United Nations, and I'm going to tell you verbatim because it's better to speak verbatim than to just say because in questions when you raise. What does he say? And I'm going to read it out to you. He says, India supplied more vaccines globally than have vaccinated our own people. Did he go and tell them that we have to fulfill certain contractual obligations? Did he go and say that this is what the companies had to do? No, he did not mention it and specify it anywhere. If a representative of the country in the United Nations has to speak for the country, then he has to speak every word as it is, according to the law, according to the binding, according to the way the things have to be. What did he say? He did not say anything about contractual obligations. What he said that we have, supplied more vaccines globally than we've done it to our people. That means we were trying to get publicity, be happy in the world, and say that we are, a vaccine diplomat country, and we are trying to doing good to the world. But what happened? हमारे आंगन में ही कुछ नहीं हो रहा है हमारे घर में हम कुछ नहीं कर रहे that is where it's all flawed now then to add to all the problems to the state big companies like Moderna and Pfizer and I've got all the names here Sputnik Johnson Johnson Zydus Cadila what do they say we will only deal with the center the point here is the center needs to get their act together they need to take a decision well if the states have to pay yes the states will pay. But if the companies are not willing to deal with the states, so the center should, kind of float a global tender. They should procure those vaccines and then supply to the states according to the population and the requirement. And then let the states pay for it. We are doing it. We have floated an EOI, expression of interest. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people have not shown interest. But the BMC here, BMC, the local authority in Mumbai, has got 4 companies, 3 from India and 1 Russian. For Sputnik V, we are doing our thing. We are ready to do it. But if the companies are not willing to give it to us, how it's going to work? The point here is people are suffering. At the end of the day, politics can go on. People can keep fighting. The center can keep palming off their responsibility. And, this whole thing about सब कुछ center करेगा तो फिर states क्या करेंगे? But आपने ही तो नियम लागू किए. You only set the benchmark. You only set the rules. And suddenly when you realize that it's all coming on your head, then you dump it on all the state governments. And it's not just the non-BJP government states that are complaining. The states like Assam, their blue-eyed boy, the new Chief Minister of Assam, he's also been complaining. So everybody has been complaining. The bottom line is, stop playing politics. The center should start reviewing its flawed, all these, rules and regulations that they're doing. And this whole protocol that they've been setting, they need to review it again and start it all over again and do something that is only beneficial for the people of our country.
Okay, so you're right in some aspects. I mean, not that it's of any use now to dwell on what the government and the ministers said or our representatives said internationally in the month of March, because now we are at the towards end of May. We now need to look ahead and see how can we fix the problem. I think everybody now agrees we are in a problem and it's a disaster, and day by day one more big problem is cropping up. So the center said that the private hospitals can get foreign vaccines, that the states can order foreign vaccines directly, but Pfizer and Moderna are now refusing to do that. Adil, should we now seriously look at going back to the way the policy was in April, or is that too complicated again, too much of a problem even for the states to do so? Should the center take the control back?
Well, Tanvi, the central government's vaccination policy is completely botched up. And the BJP government is cruel and callous. They've shown utter disregard for the health and safety of Indian citizens. The primary reason why there is this shortage and chaos is because the government of India did not place adequate orders. Dr. Gagandeep Kang, who's one of the leading virologists of this country and also is a member of the Supreme Court appointed committee, is on record to say that the government of India should have placed orders. Why is there this shortage? Why are foreign manufacturers not supplying? Because they already have contractual commitments. The government of India, from the moment when the pandemic broke out, should have taken steps. The only way to defeat this virus, and we've said this ad nauseum, Tanvi, the only way to defeat this virus is to inoculate maximum number of people in the shortest duration of time. Interstate immunization, whether it was polio, whether it was tuberculosis, whether it was a host of other diseases notified under the Epidemics Act, has always been the responsibility of the central government. And more importantly, Tanvi, and I urge your viewers to consider, if Narendra Modi wants to take credit by pasting his photograph on the vaccine certificate, then he must also own up and take responsibility for this chaos. Indian citizens are dying. They've died gasping for oxygen. There have been thousands of dead bodies floating in the Ganges and the Yamunas. And even now, even after this humongous human toll, the government of India just doesn't seem to be getting its act together. The answer to this is compulsory licensing. The answer to this is that the central government must centralize procurement. We've said this from the word go. Centralize procurement and decentralize execution. You procure these vaccines and then equitably distribute it to the states to vaccinate its population. This is the only way to go forward. Unfortunately, Tanvi, and I say this with a heavy heart, not as a Congress spokesperson, but as a citizen of this country, Narendra Modi has no regard, has no empathy, and has no compassion. Even today, even when we're
I will let BJP respond to that, Adil, in just a bit. But I just want to highlight that because while Punjab and let me just come in here. You've made your points and let the BJP respond to that. But I just want to say, and I want to stick to the aspect of vaccines and the global open to global vaccines policy that we announced that doesn't seem to be going anywhere because Punjab wrote to one company, Delhi to another. They both got these responses. Others have come back and told us, like Maharashtra, have already said that we issued these tenders, but we have not seen any response. Few of the other states have even changed their clauses in the tender. That's to the extent that the states are right now going and struggling to figure out how to get more vaccines. And now we discover that that's not even something that the vaccine makers want to look at. Before I go across to Bantika, Shivam Chhabra, do respond to what NCP and Congress are saying here. This is a mess that the center needs to take onus of.
No, the mess is being created by whom? The mess is being created by the opposition parties who are trying to rake up this opportunity to do politics on this issue. I mean, over 19.60 crore people have been vaccinated all through right till date. And I think the government of India has already made it clear that by July, the ramp up of production is going to happen. We're going to have 3 major companies doing so. Sputnik has started production today itself. So I don't think there should be so much of hue and cry and maybe kind of politics on this kind of an issue. I mean, it is highly unfortunate the kind of words being used by the Congress spokesperson and the NCP. They are all going hand in hand in Maharashtra. I'm sorry, but the kind of situation that prevails in Maharashtra is well known. Nobody needs to reiterate that. But I'm just trying to say, the center is committed to provide all the vaccinations
can
to
you
the states
please explain to me, how is this the state's fault? Mr. Chhabra, can you please explain to me, how is it the state's fault? The center said 1 minute, please. The center said that the states should go and procure the foreign vaccines from international players. The international players are saying we will not deal with the states, we only deal with national governments, central governments. Now the center is saying we will help you facilitate. How is this the state's fault? You are quoting to me what Sputnik V has started to produce in our country now. Do you know from the time the production begins to the time the vaccine doses enter the market, it takes 4 months, Mr. Chabra. Please don't mislead my viewers here. The production that is starting now will only hit the markets in at least 3 to 4 months.
By the opposition parties. That is the ground reality. You've been misled by the opposition parties.
Please.
That's the ground reality.
Don't insult my intelligence. I don't need to resort to any kind of random reading or listening to opposition parties or any politician for that matter.
I'm sorry, Tanvi. I am not trying to question your integrity. I'm just trying to put forward my point of view. I am saying the government of, you are trying to reach out to Pfizer and the other company you are referring to, who have not been authorized to sell out vaccines here in India. They are not being approved by the Indian government, and you are reaching out to them.
The center said we will authorize them.
It is again a process. It is again a process. You have to go by the process. You have to follow that kind of process. You can't be so kiddish and you're going all across to the Pfizer and the other company and saying you're going to flow a global tender and inviting people to send in their vaccines.
It is important that
the center said this is the process.
Yes,
Clyde, please tell us what is the process that was told to you.
Tanvi,
the union
can I speak, Tanvi, please?
Let me respond. Give me an opportunity to respond, Tanvi. This is just not done. You've given ample time
Okay.
opportunity to respond.
Okay, so let Shivam Chabra finish. Let Shivam Chabra finish.
Tanvi, what I'm trying to say, whatever procurement the central government is doing for the sake of the state government only. They are not going to utilize it for their own purposes. So whatever procurement we are doing is for the states. We are providing the free vaccinations to the state in the best possible way we could do it. But unfortunately, the pure mismanagement on the part of state governments is to be realized also. It is not going to be, I mean, just doing politics over that you're not getting the doses in the right quantity is not the right argument also. The government of India is committed to vaccinate the entire country by the end of this year in a phase-wise manner.
Please, don't give me by the end of the year wala number. I will start laughing on your face then. I'm sorry. Please don't give those random numbers here. We take our work extremely seriously. When you have evidence to suggest you will get 200 crore vaccines, then you give me that number. Clyde Crasto, please.
Tanvi, on the onset, before I get into further details, I'd like to let the viewers know and let the BJP spokesperson also know that I've done umpteen debate with you. And I don't think on any way or on any ground can any opposition party influence Tanvi Shukla. So I think, the BJP spokesperson should get that out of his head. Secondly,
I'm not trying to influence her. I'm sorry. You took me wrong, sir. I did not try to influence Tanvi Shukla. I'm just saying.
As always, you're not listening.
Okay. Let's stick to the point, please. Let's stick to the point.
Go ahead and have the decency to listen. Have the decency to
Let's stick to the point, please.
Then I would request the PCR to cut his fader down so that we can talk. My points, I'm making 2 points, Tanvi. Very simple 2 points. Okay? First and foremost, when the central government said that the states have to now procure all the vaccines and inoculate their people, they went to the producers and the suppliers. What did the suppliers say? That all the stocks have been booked by the center. So if the stocks are booked by the center, whose fault is it? If the supplier is not going to give it to the state and they said we only supply to the center, so how can the state inoculate their people? Second, if the global tenders were floated and if the global big companies like Moderna say that we will only deal with the center, so how is it the state's fault? These are the questions that need to be answered by the BJP spokesperson and the people in the government themselves, because I think the BJP spokesperson either has not been briefed properly or has been asked to told that kuch bhi ho, you blame the center. My point is 2 things. If there are no stocks, how will the states procure the stocks? And if the companies globally are not willing to deal with the states and only with the center, then what is the state's fault? Answer that question. Your flawed administration, you did not work on this properly. Don't blame it on the state. And secondly, I repeat it again. When our representative goes and pounding his chest in the United Nations that we have supplied more worldwide than to our own people, then there will always be a question on what the central government is trying to do. Before you blame the others, go and do your homework and then talk about this.
Tanvi, can I come in, please? Tanvi, 30 seconds.
Okay, let me, okay, please give me,
30 seconds.
just give me few more minutes. I will come back to you guys. I must bring in Abantika Ghosh on this conversation and put across, she'll help us put across some more facts for our viewers as well to know. Abantika, from scratch now in the last 6-8 weeks we've seen one policy move after the other seems to have gone haywire, seems to have just landed us in more trouble, slowing down our vaccination process even more. Now, the BJP seems to suggest that when the center hasn't given the nod for these manufacturers, how can they provide or supply vaccines to anybody else? But wasn't it the center that said that you go and strike your deals and we will give the emergency nod?
Right. And the center specifically said that when you get vaccines, so we had passed this notification that vaccines that are approved by certain regulatory authorities, of which USFDA is one. Since we are talking about Moderna and Pfizer, I'll just mention USFDA. There are a bunch of others. If they are approved by these regulators, then the clinical trial requirement, the local clinical trial requirement will be waived. And Dr. V.K. Paul specifically said, "Hum 2 din mein approval de denge." These were the words used. A. B. There are some very interesting things that the center has told the Supreme Court in affidavits, which they are not saying otherwise. One of these is that, so the official position is that we have got nothing to do with states' procurement. If states cannot procure, then that is their problem. However, what the government of India told the Supreme Court is that, I have just taken that line out, is that, just a second, it is submitted, and I'm quoting, this is within quotes, it is submitted that though the states are procuring the vaccines from the manufacturers, the central government has, in consultation with the vaccine manufacturers, determined the pro rata population of each state in the age group of 18 to 44, and each state will procure only that quantity so that there is no disparity in availability of vaccines between the states inter se, either based upon difference in their bargaining power or otherwise. This is from the affidavit, and I'm quoting verbatim from the affidavit in the Supreme Court that has been submitted by the Ministry of Home Affairs. That's number one. Secondly, in another affidavit, the government of India has said that right now we are producing 6 crore vaccine doses, 6.3 crore vaccine doses per month. By July, that will go up to 12 crore vaccine doses. By that calculation, at 12 crore vaccine doses per month, between July and December, you can manufacture less than 75 crore, about 72 crore vaccine doses. Whereas what the center says publicly is that we are expecting 216 crore doses by December 2021. I don't know. I mean, there was a breakup given, which was full of vaccines that have not gotten approval, that are still in various trial stages. So these are the sort of, the double speak that's happening basically.
Tanvi, can I come in, please?
Yeah, let me just actually read out that breakup. Covishield 75 crore doses, which at the capacity that they have, 6.5 crore, if that is what it is, because right now that's not the capacity that's hit the markets. 75 crore doses between August and December. Covaxin 55 crore doses. They've just about announced that they're going to ramp it up to 100 crore doses annually. They are nowhere close to it. They're still in the range of roughly 1.5 crore right now. But this is the estimate there. Apart from this, BioE subunit vaccine, 30 crore doses, doesn't have approvals yet. Zydus Cadila DNA, 5 crore doses, doesn't have approvals yet. Novavax, 20 crore doses. Well, internationally it has approval. Here the production ran into trouble because the import of certain raw materials was stuck because of US policies. Bharat Biotech intranasal, still under trial, 10 crore doses. Genova mRNA 6 crore doses, Sputnik 15.6 crore doses. We don't know if these are the import ones or the ones that have just begun to manufacture in our country. So yes, I completely agree with you, Avantika, that right now I don't think any of us should hold this as the final word and the gospel truth of 216 crore doses. But even if we look at current policy, that's where the problem lies. How are states told to go ahead and strike these deals, or private hospitals told to go ahead and strike these deals, when the companies themselves will not do so? Yes, Adil, you wanted to make a point.
And the BJP is exhibiting arrogance and unfortunately still this misplaced sense of hubris. Now let's go by the timeline. Till the 19th of April 2021, the entire vaccination process was owned and controlled by the government of India. It was only after the 19th of April that the states were given, at least on paper, this elbow room to procure vaccines. The pertinent question which the BJP needs to answer is, what did they do till the 19th of April 2021 to augment our facility? Because had they placed adequate orders, there would not have been a shortage of vaccine. Point number one. Point number two, I come back to my primary point. What did the government of India do to diversify our vaccine basket? Number three, it is all very well for the BJP to blame the state governments, but little do they realize that if we don't have vaccines, we cannot administer doses and inoculate people. It is not that we are hoarding vaccines or we have vaccines. The problem is that there is no supply. And this is exactly where the central government needs to come in. If foreign manufacturers are not supplying to the state governments, it's incumbent on the central government to voluntarily step in, because they want an assurance from the central government. They want approvals from the central government. Where is Mr. Modi? Where is the health minister? Why are they not stepping in?
But Adil, if I may just... Yeah, but if I may just, because here is where many states are wondering what's going on and why are we not even, why are the suppliers not giving us what we're asking for, is because of what Avantika just read out. And this actually, Avantika, correct me if I'm wrong, was not public information. That even for the manufacturers' quota to the states, there is a formula that has been put into place basis only which the manufacturers will give that supply. So it's not to say Maharashtra wakes up and says, I want 6 crore doses, the manufacturer will give them 6 crore doses. Abantika, am I correct? Is that also information that Adil, I'll come to you. I just want to highlight this fact for our viewers as well. This information also, became clearer, Abantika, through the affidavit which was submitted in the court.
That's right. Yes, because the public statements have always been that it's for the states to procure. We have, in fact, Mr. Love Agarwal, when specifically asked this question, said we have nothing to do. We have no role to play in states procurement. Whereas it is right there in a public document where the role that the center is playing in states procurement, how they have basically put limits on how each state can procure. That's clearly laid out in black and white. There is no ambiguity in it. But the public statement has always been, we have no role to play in states procurement.
Tanvi, can I come in 30 seconds, please? Tanvi?
Yes, 30 seconds, yes.
Tanvi, it is not just the pleadings and the affidavit of the central government. The Honorable Supreme Court, Justice Chandrachud, in his judgment dated the 9th of March 2021, has categorically called the government of India's vaccination policy to be inequitable. Now, is the BJP also accusing the Supreme Court of misleading this country? Even the Honorable Supreme Court calls your vaccination policy botched up. International journals like Lancet call your policy botched up. Where is Narendra Modi? If he cannot govern, he should resign. This is a question of Indian lives, for heaven's sake. You are still focused on managing image, managing perceptions, rather than controlling and managing the pandemic. For heaven's sake, please put Indian lives first.
Okay, Shivam Chabra would want to respond to that. Yes.
So I think I was listening to what Adil Bhai was saying. I fall in line with his sentiments also, but I wish to put some facts in place. reference of the Supreme Court judgment he was making, the Honorable Justice Chandrachudji, I would probably remind him that the kind of the implementation of the liberalized and accelerated phase 3 strategy of COVID on 1st May, when 18 to 44 age group was given this nod for the vaccination, it was done to ensure that the maximum number of population gets vaccinated at the earliest. This basically the new policy, basically the new setup, the new system which was put in place was to ensure it was a phase-wise kind of a process, Tanvi. The first phase ensured that the frontline workers needs to be vaccinated. The second was the senior citizens, 45 plus. The third phase was 18 to 44. So it has to be a phase-wise kind of a thing which has to happen. But unfortunately, the kind of politics which has been doing, the opposition parties have been doing on this issue is unfortunate. There's always the right to protest. There's always a right to submit your points. But unfortunately, hungering on to an opportunity and probably defaming and derailing an ongoing process is also is not expected out of the opposition. The same leaders you were saying, as far as the vaccination part you were referring to, the government of India, as I said, is committed to vaccinate the entire population by the end of December. We have a designated plan to do it. We have submitted the same plan in an affidavit in the Supreme Court of India. I don't know why the opposition is so reluctant and probably say they are confused on various aspects and not committed to do it.
People are dying. People are dying.
No, I agree. People are dying, but thanks to you, sir.
We are not concerned about your own affidavit. What do we tell people who want to get vaccinated? Shivamji, please hear me out. What do we tell people who come to the vaccination centers and want to get inoculated?
No, Adil bhai, the same leaders of the Congress.
One at a time, please. One at a time. One at a time.
You are
Adil, let him finish. Let him finish, please. Let him finish.
It was your leaders. I mean, let me not. Please don't allow me to name the leaders who have been protesting the vaccination itself, questioning the vaccination process. Please don't force me to do so. You've been trying to do politics on this issue, but my only humble request and submission to you is, please stand with the government. Please stand with us. We are committed to vaccinate the entire population by the end of December. We are committed to provide the states with the maximum number of doses we could do it. And I think the kind of rampant of the production is happening. I'm sure that by July and by maximum by the October end, I think the more of the Indian population is going to get vaccinated. I don't think there should be. The vaccination process is a priority of the government of India as of now. And please mark my words, you need to stand with the government, not against the government on this entire process. It is my humble submission.
Also, you need to stand with the state.
I just want to say, asking questions, pointing out problems, just 1 minute, please, 30 seconds. Asking questions, pointing out problems with the policy is not to say you don't stand with the government. Every state right now, and I think it will be unfair to say that any government state is working towards not vaccinating their people. Everybody, every elected neta wants his constituency people to be vaccinated. We're all pushing towards the same. But we must also understand when there is a problem with the policy, that needs to be discussed threadbare. Now, please allow me. When the government goes and tells the Supreme Court that our current manufacturing capacity is 6.5 crore and 2 crore, that comes to 8.5 crore, and then the government doesn't explain to us why only 5 crore vaccinations are being done in a month, then it's a problem. Then there will be questions asked. Were you talking about a production capacity that is still in the manufacturing plant and will only reach the markets in many, many more weeks? Then don't mislead the people by saying this is the number of vaccines we are making right now and giving to you on a monthly basis. Clyde wanted to come in. Go ahead, please.
Not misleading anybody. You need to
Now,
trust
You are not, but the data 8.5 crore, the data 8.5 crore as the production capacity of our country currently in an affidavit to the Supreme Court said 8.5 crore. That's not the number of vaccines which are hitting the markets. It's just about 5 crore that we will do this month. That is the gap. Yes. Yes. Clyde, go ahead.
Tanvi, it's easy for the BJP spokesperson to keep saying it's very unfortunate and politics is being played. Yes, it is unfortunate. You have not planned the whole thing. My point here is, when you know that we do not have enough vaccines, you gave out the whole list of saying first we did healthcare workers, frontline workers, senior citizens. If there were not enough vaccines, why did you open it up for the age group of 18 to 44? And then after you opened it up, you suddenly told the states, you got to do it on your own. And then, if you're talking about politics has been played. When a state has a higher case load, you do not supply them with vaccine. When the population of a state is high, you're not supplying enough vaccines to them. And then you say that you're playing politics. Wherever there's BJP governed states, there are more vaccines, more medicines being sent there. So if you're going to talk politics, if you want to talk about how it's being unfortunate, we can have a separate debate on this whole thing issue. The point here is equitable distribution of vaccines have to be done. The government should float a global tender, procure those vaccines. The states have to pay. States are willing to pay. Give it according to the caseload. Give it according to the population. Do the planning correctly. All you need to do is plan this out properly. All what you are doing right now is saying this state is doing that state is doing that. But the fact of the matter is not just the BJP governed states. There are other states also which do not have a BJP government. So look at everybody else. And the point here is, if you are saying that, you have to be, assist the central government, you have to, support the central government. So when is the central government going to support the state? Just because we are questioning, that means we are playing politics. When you are in opposition in a certain state, when you question, you say, no, we are giving, justifiable questions. What is the role of the opposition in a democracy? The role of opposition in a democracy is to highlight the flaws of the ones in government. And if you're highlighting the right flaws, then you should accept it. Why not accepting it? In a democracy, you want the opposition to keep saying that
Okay. Yes,
No,
Shivam Chabra.
I'm saying there's always a point to right to protest. There's always an opportunity to right to submit. But there should not be an opportunity to do politics over an issue. You should always submit your point.
Who decides what
The
politics
opposition
is?
party-
It's right in front of you. The whole country is seeing there is not enough vaccine. You're not supplying enough vaccine. Who decides what
Listen to me.
Who decides?
I want to humble.
you. But you are the one.
Very
You
humble.
are the one who's not supplying enough vaccines. Listen, my friend. In your politics, the people of India are suffering. Every state is part of this country. We are not separate. You are dividing the states. BJP government, government states, non-BJP government states. You are dividing it.
Okay, Clyde.
Dividing it here.
Yeah, I will not be able to hear. I will not be able to hear either of you. One at a time,
Do
please.
it.
Shivam Chabra, yeah.
Let him do it. Let him complete his argument because he's been constantly doing so. Unfortunately, I'm not being heard. I'm in minority right here. I can't say
No,
anything.
go ahead.
He should clear his point first.
Go
and then
ahead,
do it.
finish. I want. Go ahead, please.
I'm just saying, Tanvi.
Go ahead, finish your point. Shivam Chabra.
When the union government has provided the state government ample doses to vaccinate their populations, why aren't they doing it? This is my straightforward question. The second point you said, the global tenders. The second point you said, since the state government have got an opportunity or probably a right to float the global tenders and probably invite in the foreign companies to do so, let's do it. You are able to do it. But this is not the right way of doing it. If a vaccination is not approved here in India and you're trying to speak to them directly and then say, okay, supply it to my state. Obviously, they will say, you speak to your government, they will give approval and we'll do it. What's the problem? Why are you creating a politics out of this issue?
No. There is nothing obvious about it. I'm sorry. That is. No, Shivam, this cannot be the system. The system can't be that the states are told that 50% quota is for you and private hospitals. You go and ask and arrange it for yourself. But when you go to ask them, they say, no, the center has said we can't give you so much. So go and get permission from the center. Then the center should simply allocate. Na? Where is the problem? Then continue with the earlier process where you were procuring, you were allocating, and straight away it was being distributed to the states. You decided you don't want to do that. You gave a direct connection between the makers and the states, and then you turned around and said we will still have control over it.
2%.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Tanvi, even if it is 1% procurement, 2% procurement, 50% procurement from the companies, whatever they're producing is going to give to Indian government. I agree to this point. Now, where is this 50% going? The 50% procurement, what we are doing is, we are doing it for the states only. They're getting it free doses. What's the problem? I am not understanding this kind of a thing. either I am not getting.
I don't care at the end of the day कि ये state के पास जा रहा है या सरकार के पास जा रहा है या private hospital के पास जा रहा है. I care कि ये मेरे पास कब आ रहा है, मेरा नंबर कब लगने वाला है, लोगों को वैक्सीन कब लगने वाली है. 6 महीने 5 महीने हो गए हैं, अभी तक 19 करोड़ लोगों को वैक्सीन लगी है. 1.25 करोड़ की आबादी है हमारे देश की. This is the status. Second wave has claimed so many lies that the only official statistics stand at over 3 lakh deaths so far in our country. One can't even begin to imagine what the unofficial status will be. We claim to be preparing for the third wave. We can't even get our vaccination policy right, or at least give us clear answers as to what the policy is. It is shameful that state after state has had to go to companies individually, whether it is Moderna or Pfizer or any other company, only to be told, we are not going to deal with you. We will only deal with the central government. If that is the case and that was the policy, why was it changed to begin with? One other aspect that I want to highlight. And while in the larger scheme of things, in a longer scheme of things, it makes sense, Adil, to say that even those above the age of 18, they will be walk-ins allowed. A large percentage of population in our country cannot access and book their registration on a portal or an app. So the policy to open it up to everybody makes sense. And I'm not asking this question to Clyde because in the state of Maharashtra, there is no vaccination for those above the age of 18. But to Adil, to you, this question. How is this going to help when there are no vaccines? Will the states not get concerned now that there's just going to be a longer and longer queue that we will now see? I'm completely out of time, so I'm sorry, I will have to end this conversation here. A big thank you to all of the representatives, especially to Bantika Ghosh for joining me with a lot more insights in helping our viewers understand this. States like Maharashtra and Delhi don't have vaccines to give to people above the age of 18. In fact, as we speak, even within the Maharashtra, in cities like Pune, there are decisions being made to suspend vaccination for 1 day because the centers don't have vaccines across the centers. Pune Corporation has just announced that they have suspended vaccination for tomorrow. They don't have vaccines. That there is a shortage is not a debate anymore, is not even a point I want to harp on. That there is lack of clarity on how to go about fixing this problem is a big disaster. That we don't know who is taking this decision, centers by itself, each state to its own, figuring out its own life, private hospitals themselves, or is there a larger policy that we're going to look at? If the global vaccines are not going to come to us until the central government intervenes, then do you realize we wasted 1 whole month of not doing that? 1 whole month has been wasted where we've not spoken to international companies to bring in more vaccines in our country at a time when there is an acute shortage, more and more demand, and a second wave. Think about it. Quick break and we'll come back with lots more. A big conversation point on the other side as the Delhi police reaches the office of Twitter India. Stay with me.